Elizabeth here for this month's cosplay segment. I'm going to show you how to install zippers into your garment. And I'm going to just show you how a regular zipper works. This isn't the one I'll actually use. But zippers come in a number of lengths. This one is about 20 something inches. They get as small as 5 and they get even larger than this if you need to use it. If you're using a pattern, it'll tell you the length of the zipper that you will need. If you're drafting the pattern yourself, you'll just want to measure where you want the zipper to end up finishing. You want to make sure that it's long enough so that it gives you room to get into the garment, but not so long that sometimes the seam doesn't look as great. With the zipper, it can be a little stiff, and then if you have stitching, you can see the stitching as well. So you want it to be the right length. So make sure you figure it out before you go out and get the zipper. And you want a zipper that's the color of your garment as close as possible, unless you're going for like a contrasting kind of look. You also want matching colored thread, or if you want to again have a contrasting look, then you have a contrasting color thread. And you also need a zipper foot. Take it off the machine and show you. So this is a zipper foot. All machines come with a zipper foot, as far as I know. If, say, you inherited your machine from somebody else or bought it from somebody else and it doesn't have a zipper foot, search by the model and brand, the model number and brand of your machine online, and you can find someone either on a sewing machine website, eBay, or Amazon that can tell you the zipper foot. It should cost less than $10. So make sure you have that, and you want to make sure you get the right one for your machine. They aren't extremely specific, so this foot should work on my mother's genome, I think that's how you pronounce it, just like it works on my brother. And there's a variance which I won't really get into. But yeah, just search by the machine that you have. If you have a question, contact the seller and say, hey, I have this machine, I need a zipper foot, what kind of foot should I get? And you also need, which I dropped, a seam ripper. You probably want a few of these on hand because they love to just disappear on you and you have no idea where they went, even though you know you own like 10 of them. So you need a seam ripper. And you also need an iron, which is over there, and an ironing board. So we're going to get started, and I'm going to show you the 2 ways to do this zipper. You can either do a centered application or a lapped application. So let's get started. This is a 14-inch zipper. First thing I want to do is, because of the way it was folded inside the packaging, I'm just going to give it a little iron. You want to make sure your iron's not too hot, because since it's made out of synthetic materials, your iron might melt it. I've had that happen before. So don't worry about getting it perfect. You just want to smooth out a little bit so it'll sew in nicely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure out where the bottom of my zipper is going to be so I know when I'm sewing. So the top should match, not the top of the zipper, but the top of the pull, but the top of the fabric part should match the top of your garment here, because you're going to put in a facing or a waistband or something like that that'll finish it, and then it'll actually end up folding over and meeting, this will go into your seam allowance basically. So this will end up at the top of the seam, or whatever it is that you're doing. There might be cases where that's not the case, and if you're using a pattern, it'll tell you, and if you know what you're doing and that's not what that's going to end up, then you're probably not watching this video. But generally speaking, you want to match it up to the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark down here. That's just off camera, so let me move this up. So I'm going to mark down here where the metal end is of the zipper. I'm going to mark just above that. So that way I know where it is that I'm sewing. You can use a pen or you can use a pencil. You can take your scissors and cut a little notch out of the fabric so you know where it is that you need to sew until. So I'm going to sew these together now. I'm also going to mark this with a pin. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew a basting stitch from the top to this point, and then I'm going to shorten my stitch length so it's a normal stitch all the way to the bottom. You do this because, I just want you to make sure your fabric matches up. You do this because you're going to start with a basting stitch to put the zipper in, and then once the zipper is in, you're going to pull those stitches out, and then you have your your super cool zipper. So I have my seam, and I don't know if you can see it's out of a light purple thread just because that's what was in my machine. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to iron it open just like you would a regular seam. And this also helps you to install the zipper because you want a nice flat seam. First what I'm going to show you to do is a centered application so that the coils end up evenly on both sides. So there's two different ways you can install a regular zipper. The next one is a lapped one, which I'll show you. And you can also do a button fly type like with your jeans, but I've only done that really once before, and I'm probably not the best person to show you. So what you're going to do is you're going to open your zipper. Now, you're going to start with, you can either really pick either side, but I usually just do the right side. And you're going to take one side, and you're going to match it up to the top, and you want to make sure your coil is right next to that seam line, right up there. And then you want to take a pin and pin it in place every so often. Okay, let's bring this over to the machine. Okay, so here's my machine, and first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to swap out this foot for my zipper foot. Again, this is the zipper foot that came with my machine. I'm going to install it, you can actually make it go on like either side here, so that if you want to work from the right side of something, you can work on the right side. If you want to work from the left side, you can work from the left side. You can't access anything from either side. I'm going to put it in, refer to your machine's manual on how to put your feet in. I'm going to put it in so that it kind of extends over to the right. So what I'm going to do is taking this, oh that's not right, you want to have it so that the two right sides of your garment are together here. Then you want to take your seam, fold the seam allowance that is not being sewn to over, and then basically this seam allowance kind of just extends out on its own. And what you're going to do is you're going to baste your zipper in place onto your seam allowance. And take that first pin out. So put your foot down, put your needle down. That way this isn't going anywhere. So you want to adjust it. You want to use your hands and you want to push the zipper, push that side of the coils into the seam as close as possible. You can work slowly if you want. Make sure you're on a basting stitch in case you screw up and want to start over. And just keep going. Just little by little. You can take it slow. No one's rushing you or anything, unless the con's tomorrow or something. You want to take it slow because you don't want to mess it up and have to start again, because that would just waste more time. And say, don't sew over your pins, that's bad. Okay. My machine is computerized, so it's set so that when I'm done sewing, the needle goes down automatically. If your machine doesn't do that, you want to make sure to move your needle down in place before you start maneuvering things. That way the fabric and stuff doesn't run away from you. Now as you reach the bottom and you get near the pull of the zipper, just kind of work around it as best you can. And then when you're done, my machine's cool and didn't do what it's supposed to. There it goes. It cuts the thread automatically. So you can have that, or you can pull it and do whatever. So you're all set with that. Next, you want to zip up your zipper. And you want to open it up. And you want to be looking at the seam basically here. Now, before you sew anything, take a pen and find the bottom of your zipper. Most important, you want to find this bottom metal thing. You do not want to hit that with your needle because it can cause your needle to break, and that's bad. So, kind of feel for it with your fingers. And I like to put it just, my pin, just above it. Okay, right there. And I'm actually going to stop a little ways before that. Now, if your zipper is too long, what you can do is you can cut it short, and you can stitch over where you cut it back and forth about 5 or 6 times, and that will keep the zipper pull from coming off of the bottom zippers, because if you cut it cleanly, the zipper is just going to come right off. So you want to do it at the bottom and not the top, because it's easier to refinish it. So if you only need like 10 inches, you can only, you could do up to like 4, and then once you're at this point here, no, it's before you install it. You want to just put it in your machine, go over 4 or 5 times, and then cut off the excess. There's plenty of awesome tutorials online about how to shorten your zipper. I have so many loose threads here. Just want to clear those out of the way. Alright. So what you're going to do, a lot of this is by feel, and you get used to it after a while. So make sure your pull is kind of pointing upwards so it's out of the way. Now you can't quite start at the top. You want to start a little ways down, and you want to be careful not to hit your needle on anything. So I kind of start just below where the pull ends up. I move my needle in place. And what I do for this is I don't know how well you can see it, but I have like the side of the foot lines up with the seam, and that way I can have a guide to go by, because the seam will go by the side of the foot here. I'm going to pull my camera in a little closer so you guys can see a little better. So right there, it lines right up with the foot. Try not to drop it. Here we go. And it's crooked. Okay. So now I'm going to sew. I'm going to go forward a couple. Alright, make sure your machine's off a basting stitch. I always do that. I usually do it like a 3. So, you want to be careful. You might need to, so you want to go backwards just a little bit. Okay, I'm going to go forwards. Just to get the thread in place so it doesn't unravel on you. You're going to go back over it at the end. So you want to go forward. What you kind of want to do is spread it out like this as it goes along. So that way things don't get bunchy. Go slow if you want. If you want to look really, because you are going to see this unless something else covers it up. So you're top stitching it in place, and you want it to look nice. You want it to be straight. Generally you would use the same color thread as your fabric, but if you want it to have a cool look to it, you could use a contrasting thread, especially if you're doing other top stitching details. Alright, I'm coming up on my needle here. Alright, I'm going to stop right there with my needle. Alright, make sure your needle's down. Open up your foot, turn it 90 degrees. Feel for the bottom of that zipper and make sure it is out of the way, because sometimes things move around, and in my case, what it feels like they did. Yeah, that is right in the way of my needle. So I'm gonna have to be really careful that I don't sew over it. So I'm actually gonna do this by hand. I'm turning the side of it. Yep, it's right there. See, I made like a point of going above the zipper. I don't know what to tell you. So I'm gonna lift this up, and I'm just gonna jump right past it. So I'm gonna have a huge stitch there. So generally you want to just stitch carefully But be careful that you don't sew one. That's bad. So I'm gonna have a big stitch at the bottom of that, but that's okay. So when you turn it, you want to so needle down again, turn it 90 degrees, and what you want to do is again have this right the side of your foot along the seam. So you're doing like a big huge U shape. And then you want to zip up the other end. You want to get up as close as possible to that pull. And I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to back up just a bit and cut out my thread. Alright, the next step is you want to take your seam ripper. And let's see if I can do this with the machine in the way. You want to take your seam ripper and just open up the seam. Be very careful not to catch it in the fold. I've done that before and it looks crappy. So you can see here it's top stitched on both sides. I'm just pulling that sucker down. I'm going to do that here so I can actually see what I'm doing. All the way to the bottom. To where I failed and ended up with it on the thing. So that's the bottom. Generally it would look a little nicer than that without all the big stitch, but whatever. There's going to be little pieces of thread sticking out, so just pull those out. I'm going to do it later. So now you got to finish up the top. So this is always fun. So I'm going to unzip my zipper. I got to switch this to the other side because I'm going to be accessing it from the other side. Just quick switcheroo. And I'm going to go up as close as I can. And I'm going to go to, I'm going to start with my existing stitch. And I'm going to kind of just fold this in place. I'm going to pin it at the top to hold it until I get to the top. My machine got unthreaded. That's right, it has an automatic threader too. It's a Brother SC400 if you want one. It's a really cool machine and I love the automatic threading. Alright, so forward a couple, back one, and just all the way up until the top. And back. And finish. And then the other side, actually it's going to start from the top and work its way down just because of how it's oriented. Again, you want to keep that edge of the foot as close to the coils as possible. Now this takes a lot of practice. I've probably done a few hundred zippers by now. I think I learned how to do one once when I was really little and I started sewing. They take practice. Alright. So this is your completed regular zipper. Ta-da! And alright, next I'm going to show you how to do a lap zipper. Woo! We're going to do a lapped zipper installation this time. I already opened up my seam. And what I'm going to do here is you want the seam allowance, you want to fold it so the right sides are together, and you want one of the seam allowances to extend out, pretty similar to before. Now with the end of the coil facing away from you and the top of it at the top of the garment, once again you're going to have the top of the zipper meet the top of the garment, you want the coils of the zipper to touch that seam. So it's slightly different before because you're using a closed, you're using the zipper closed now instead of being open. So you want to have the far side of it, the opposite side from before, kind of. So the zipper coils will be in the seam allowance, basically. I hope I'm explaining that well. And once again, you're going to pin it in place. you can just feel for it to make sure it's, you know, where you want it to be. Okay, last one. Alright, let's go to the machine. So I got my zipper foot in, I got my machine set to a basting stitch, and just like before, I'm going to baste this in place. Do you want to be like, do it like in the middle of the zipper part. You don't want to go right up to the stitching line yet. But don't go too far off. So you're going a little, it extends past the seam allowance. So be careful that you don't, you know, not attach it. And then just kind of scoot around the top. Got it. Alright, so now I have it basted in place. And what I'm going to do now is flip up the zipper so it's facing me now instead of down. And it creates a fold with the part that's next to this, where the stitch was. And what you're going to do essentially is stitch this in place. So I'm going to start from the back. And you're probably going to want to switch where your sewing machine, where your zipper was. Your zipper foot goes. I had to turn mine the opposite way. So that'll fold in place, and you want to bring the fold close to the coils, but not have it touching. So do some wrangling here. Come on. Do what I want you to do. This is why I don't do these types of zippers very often. But again, you know, I've done enough centered applications, so I got the hang of it. If I did enough of these, I would probably not be struggling like I am right now. Okay. You want to start right next to the metal ending there. And change your stitch to a regular length. I'm going to do a 3. You want to go, and then backwards, and then forwards. Just fold it with your fingers, and just push it right in place. You could fold it with an iron if you wanted to first, but I guess I was just too lazy to get up from my machine. And then get up as close to that pull as you can without actually running over the pull. I'm actually going to pull his zipper down. If I can, yep. Just get that sucker out of the way. Okay. Make sure your needle's down when you do that, and I'm just going to go all the way up to the top. And back. My hand is in the way. I'm sorry. Alright. So now I have a stitch like that next to it. Okay, so I have it now on the front. This is the right sides, and I have my seam here that will eventually open once I'm done. And in the back, you can kind of see it forms a pleat when I open it up that way. It's not really that clear from here, but it makes a pleat. That's what you want it to do. And I also marked the bottom of it here with a pin, so hopefully this time I won't go over the coil. That would suck. So I'm going to start from the bottom. Actually, this will make it a lot easier to not go over the coil because I am starting from the bottom and I'm only doing one side. So I'm going to start where that pin was. I got my foot on the wrong side. How did that happen? Okay. So I'm going to make the bottom be like to the right of that. And starting at the seam, I'm going to stitch along the bottom. I'm actually going to back again, and then forward again. You want to make sure you totally clear the zipper. Okay, there it is. So you're going to be extended out quite a bit more than you were previously. I'm actually a little bit too far. I'm going to bring it back. You want to make sure that your foot is going clean over that zipper. So like before, you can't line up the side of your zipper, you sign your foot with the zipper, because then you'll actually be sewing into the zipper. So this is going to take a little bit of practice to get used to, but you kind of want to feel for it. And the narrow part of your foot here, the forward part, you want to feel for the zipper, and you want to make sure that zipper goes, the coils go along next to that foot. So just slowly guide it. Make sure the fabric is going out straight. So that way it doesn't pucker. Keep guiding, just keep guiding and guiding and guiding, and then the foot is there. Go up as close to the foot as you can. That's good. Back. Actually, I should be able to clear that foot. No, not really. Alright. So your stitching is actually only on one side in this situation. So if I open it up, just like before, you want to use your seam ripper. Be careful, ouch, not to get your finger or the fold. I'd rather get my finger than the fold because my finger will heal. Fabric does not. Open up. You have all sorts of little rippies. And then finish off your zipper like you did before. So you gotta switch your side, starting at the top. Alright. So this is what the finished product looks like. See here, it's just like so it laps over it. Just one big fold of fabric. It opens up like this. See, you see the smaller one on this side, and then the big fold over on this side. And then it zips up like that. Alright, so again, here's the other one with the lapped application, which is pretty cool looking. I should do this more often. But those are the two ways to do a regular standard zipper. Next time I'll show you how to do invisible and separating zippers. I don't think anyone would want to watch a video where I talk about zippers for an hour, which is how long this video might have been if I get into invisible and separating zippers, because there's a lot more to those. They're more advanced techniques. But if you want to take a crack at them, they also come with instructions. And those also take more practice, I think, than the regular zippers. So stay tuned for that. That'll be coming soon. If you want to see any other cosplay segments, we'd be happy to help you with them and answer any questions that you have. So if you have like a specific question you kind of want to answer now, go to the forums, and someone should be able to help ask you. You can ask on our Facebook, you can ask on our Twitter, and if we can't help you, we can probably point you to a cool tutorial that will help you, because there are thousands of tutorials out there for sewing, not just even specifically for cosplay, but all types of sewing. So the resources are definitely out there if you need them. If you watch this video and said, I still have no idea how to put in zippers, there's plenty of tutorials out there that can help you. So you can also leave us a voicemail at 762-ADEQUATE if you're sewing and want to let us know what you're doing. Send us pictures of costumes that you've worked on, cosplaying when you're wearing them at a convention. So good luck on your next project if it involves zippers. Once you do a couple hundred of them, you get used to them. So don't get discouraged if the first one sucks, because sometimes I still screw them up. So just keep at it, keep cosplaying, and we'll see you again next time. Bye!